In celebration of Metroid turning 30 in Japan, which originally released for the Famicom Disk System on August 6, 1986, I decided to make a list dedicated to Metroidvanias, specifically games that don't include any Metroid or Castlevania titles. Those could be lists or retrospectives unto themselves. Instead, this top 10 will be used to highlight the best of the other lesser-known games, keeping the genre alive when Konami and Nintendo aren't utilizing their full Metroidvania potential. Number 10 is Alien's Infestation. Now, the original Alien is a notable influence on Metroid. Funnily enough, no video game developer tried to do the opposite, make an Alien game with Metroid's mechanics. Not until 2011, that is, when Gearbox and WayForward teamed up for Alien's Infestation on the Nintendo DS. The game itself takes place after the events of the first two films, wherein a group of colonial marines are sent aboard the USS Sephora. Players can switch between characters as they explore the ship in search of survivors. If killed, that character will suffer permadeath and the next in line will take his or her place. If all soldiers die, then it's actually game over. It's a nice twist to the Metroidvania genre, adding in strategy and survival horror elements with the addictive gameplay of exploring every nook and cranny for clues and upgrades. Number 9 is Monster Tale. I could dismissingly call Monster Tale a my first Metroid kind of experience, but it's more than that. The cute graphics and ease of difficulty may scare off the hardcore gamers, but deep within, it's an excellent addition to the list. A young girl, Ellie, wakes up in a mysterious maze, finds a magical bracelet, and befriends a monster on her adventure to escape. This monster can help attack enemies or solve puzzles, plus feeding it items will help it evolve. It's like a mixture of Pokemon and Metroid, and it's amazing. Again, it's definitely on the easier side of things, which is a large contrast between it and Alien's Infestation, but it's good regardless. Number 8 is Dust in Elysian Tale. Now, Dust wakes up with amnesia to find himself next to a talking sword and a flying squirrel thing. He seeks answers, and along the way, he is tasked with vanquishing an evil empire bent on burning down the world. It's definitely the darkest tale on here, representing a lot of political issues disguised in fantasy tropes, including racism and slavery. Aside from that, it's an amazing blend of the exploring aspects of a Metroidvania and the complex combat found in Devil May Cry. It's a great game strengthened by the fact that one guy programmed it. He had help with the music and a few other technical things, but still, that's a tremendous accomplishment for any budding developer. Number 7 is Guacamelee. There's not enough video games that are inspired by Mexican and or Spanish traditions and folklore. This game fuses popular video game and internet jokes and throws in some of this mythology to create an unforgettable adventure. And like Dusk, Guacamelee is all about heavy hits and building combos. Juan, the protagonist, seeks his beloved who has been stolen away from a dastardly group of hellish demons and an army of skeletons. He's saved by a magical luchador mask and is granted the power to stand up to evil. The best part of Guacamelee, and why it stands out from others in the genre, is that it's the only one to feature co-op. It makes a great game even sweeter with a buddy, or even 3 next to you smashing evil into oblivion. Number 6 is Headlander, and I recently reviewed this game, so I'm not going to go too in-depth, but this is the latest Metroidvania that's come out, and another reason why I was inspired to make this list. From the quirky Minds Over Double Find, you play as a rocket-propelled head that wakes up from cryostasis, only to find your body is gone and an evil AI is enslaving the rest of humanity. Unlike other Metroidvanias, the gameplay takes a little longer to get used to. The core traits of exploring a large open environment and upgrading your powers are still present, but as a floating head, you don't have a permanent body. You steal soldiers and civilians in order to fight your way through and open up new pathways. If that body is destroyed, you'll still be okay, but you won't last long as a floating head. It's tricky but fun and all around gorgeous, like a cheesy 70s sci-fi painting come to life. Number 5 is Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. Now, I played every game in the Shantae series, but Pirate's Curse is definitely my favorite. It's no surprise Alien's Infestation was good, as the original game marked the birth of WayForward. I'd love to see them try to make another licensed property into Metroidvania, but that's another top 10 to write. For now, this adventure is about Shantae, tasked with teaming up with her rival, Risky Boots, in order to stop a greater evil. Magical powers and whip-like hair are her weapons, harkening back to the more Castlevania side of things. Now, unlike most of these, Pirate's Curse has an overworld with multiple islands. Each map presents a new maze with dungeons within it as well. It's more open than a typical game in the genre, but I still think it deserves a high place on this list. Plus, it's just downright adorable. Number 4 is Cave Story, which is like the granddaddy of indie games before they became a huge thing. Developed by a single Japanese programmer in his free time, this little gem is another example of how hard work and dedication can create something brilliant given the time. Players are a young android that wake up in a cave filled with monsters. You find a gun to defend yourself, not long before a group of rabbit-like beings ask for your help. Great mechanics, beautiful pixel art, and a story that will intrigue you till the very end. Metroid and Castlevania may have inspired this game, but I think Cave Story itself inspired others to be inspired by them as well, if that makes any sense at all. Maybe I should just throw in a couple more inspires and maybe you'll get it. If not, let's move on to number 3, which is Muramasa, the Demon Blade. Like Dust and Guacamelee, Muramasa the Demon Blade is on the heavier side of combo-driven combat. As either a young princess or a ninja, players must traverse through the land of Japan for answers and revenge respectively. It originally released on the Wii, but there's also a PS Vita port of the game as well, and in my opinion, that's the best way to play it. It's from the fantastic Japanese developer Vanillaware, who has a knack for crafting video games that look like artistic masterpieces no matter what console they debut on. It's a loose Metroidvania in many senses, although it does take place in an overarching world, and there are bears that guard passing, although they're only broken through swords, so it's not a quest of ability. Still, it deserves to be on this list. Number 2 is Rogue Legacy, and this one is probably the biggest stretch to include on the list, but hear me out. Technically, Rogue Legacy is a roguelike. As a family of warriors, you and your lineage are cursed to fight inside the castle for eternity. The castle is randomly generated along with the next heir. For example, one member may be colorblind, so the world will be black and white. Sometimes it'll be upside down and some reverse and some other weird traits. Anyway, not all traits are bad, but you get the point. Equipment and stats carry over in the form of a skill tree and a shop. Focusing gold into either will help strengthen the success of your family. The castle has 4 inner sanctums, and while none of them are required with special abilities to reach, better skills and equipment will help the overall taking over the castle again. Now, it's a loose connection, sure, but it's one of my favorite games in recent memory, and I can't fathom a top 10 list without it. And now we come to number 1, which is Axiom Verge, and the same can be said for it. It's a fantastic testament to the genre, and probably the most Metroid-like of all the others on the list. It was my personal game of the year when it was released on PS4 in 2015. I was even quoted in the launch trailer, my love shone through so deeply, and I'm falling in love all over it again this year with the PS Vita port. You are Trace, a scientist who's been transported to another dimension after his experiment has gone haywire. Led along by a mysterious AI, he's tasked with finding his way home while he struggles against those who would oppose him in a world filled with monsters. With tons of unique weapons, giant bosses, an amazing soundtrack, and one of the best world and level designs out there, it's no wonder this is the best Metroidvania on the list. And yes, a single man also developed this. Axiom Verge is a delight from every angle, and there you have it. Those are my top 10 Metroidvanias that aren't Metroid or Castlevania. I'm sure I'll get a lot of replies like, why is this game on here or this game? But hey, this is just a personal thing of the games that I like and I've played, so that's that. Happy birthday to Metroid in Japan, and I'll see all of you for my next top 10 retrospective, review, or whatever I have next in store. Did you know that was a ReActionExaminer video? If you liked it, you should subscribe to me to keep up with everything that I'm doing. Also, if you have some other interests, like sex for example, check out Tomops, which is a comedy sex podcast thing wherein my best friend and I check out the weird and abnormal and the erotic. And of course, you should support me on Patreon because, hey, I want to make the channel better and I want your help to do so. Plus, if you want to check out my writing, check out Game Jerk, where I have archives and new stuff for all projects, okay? You can find all the stuff and more in the description with the links below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.